Hey, good morning. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Seeing that most of us are here already, I think we can start this morning's session. Welcome to housing and settlement. We are now in week 9 of 16 weeks, and today we'll have a presentation on housing provision and financing strategies. Um, but before we do that, if you haven't done so already, please do mark your attendance. I'll just disable the waiting room so that anyone else joining us have to wait. Okay. Is the presenting group ready? I think everyone's here today. I think presenting are okay. Great. I'll just stop sharing my screen and get good. Awesome. Right, so let's get to it. Um, we'll start our session today with a presentation on housing provision and financing strategies, and we'll continue with a brief discussion session. Unfortunately, I have to tell you that I have another meeting right after this class, so um, I might not have time to share something with you today, but hopefully I'll be able to put something up in classroom for us for you guys to read, and we can discuss this outside class hours. So without further ado, you may start your presentation.
Excuse me, sir, can you enable the share screen?
I haven't enabled the share screen. Oh, goodness me. Sorry. Forgot about that. There you go.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Also, Mr. Prananda. So we are from Group 5, and we're about to explain regarding provision and financing strategies in settlements. My name is Putri Cahaya Ramadhani, and my student number is 11. And there are also my friend Atifa Nanda, and her student number is 17. Okay, so for the contents of today will be the first one, land settlement provision problem, and the second one is Indonesia land settlement acquisition explanation, and also the last one will be Indonesia housing financing system. So the first one is land settlement provision problem and land acquisition in Indonesia.
The first land settlement provision problems in Indonesia. There are three problems. The first is the high population. The city population continues to increase due to urbanization. The large number of residents in the city causes some residents were unable to reach proper housing, which eventually strengthens in slum areas and result in the widening of the slum area. The second problem is there are still many people who live in uninhabitable house, and there are lots of abandoned land. There are about 7.3 million hectares of abandoned land that could have been used for low-income community settlements.
So first one is introduction of land acquisition. And what is land acquisition? It is the process of acquiring land through land tenure based on land acquisition and land purchase for a specific land location in accordance with the location permit obtained. So today I'm going to explain the outline for settlements in Indonesia, and it's basically about the law of land acquisition. The first one is granting of land rights to land directly controlled by the state. It is stated in Peraturan Pemerintahan number 40 in year 1996. And also the second one is land consolidation by landowners, and it is stated in Undang-Undang number 1 and 20 in year of 2011. The third one is transfer or release of land rights by the landowners, and is stated in the Peraturan Pemerintahan number 24 in year of 1997. The fourth one is utilization and transfer of state-owned original property land in accordance with the provisions of statutory regulations, and it's stated in the Undang-Undang number 1 in year of 2004. And also the fifth one is utilization of state land which was formerly abandoned land, and it is stated in the Undang-Undang number 41 year of 2004. And the last one is land acquisition for the development of public interest in accordance with the provisions of laws and also regulations, and it is stated in Undang-Undang number 2 in year of 2011. So the first one is Chapter 9 in Undang-Undang number 1, year of 2011, regarding of provision of land. It is stated in the article number 105. The first one is the government and regional governments, according to their respective authorities, are responsible for the availability of land for the construction of housing and also settlement areas. The second one is the availability of land as referred to in paragraph 1, including its stipulation in the regional spatial plan, is the responsibility of the regional government. The grant of building use rights stated in the Peraturan Pemerintahan number 40 in year of 1996. It is stated in the Article 19, who can become holders of building use rights are: first one is Indonesian citizens, and the second one is a legal entity established under Indonesian law and domiciled in Indonesia. Based on Article 20, the first one is holders of building use rights who no longer meet the requirement as referred to in Article 19 within a period of 1 year are obliged to release or transfer the said land rights to other parties who meet the requirements. The second one, if within the period referred to in paragraph 1, the right is not released or transferred, the right is nullified by the law. Based on Article 21, regarding of land that can be granted with building use rights are: the first one is state land, second one is land management rights, and the third one is freehold land. The occurrence of building use rights according to Article 22, the first one is building use rights over state land are granted by virtue of a decision granting rights by the minister or an appointed official. Second one is building utilization rights over management right land is granted with a decision to grant rights by the minister or appointed official based on the proposal of the management right holder. The third one is provisions regarding the procedure and requirements for application, and also provision shall be further regulated by a presidential decree. Next one is registration of building use rights that is stated on Article 23. First one is the granting of building use rights is registered in the land book at the land office. Second one is building utilization rights over state land or land management rights occurs since being registered by the land office. And the third one is as proof of rights, holders of building use rights are given a certificate of title to land. Granting of building use rights over freehold rights based on Article 24. The first one is Building use rights over freehold land occurs by granting ownership rights with deeds drawn up by the official for making land deeds. The second one is the granting of building utilization rights over freehold land as referred to in paragraph 1 must be registered at the land office. And the third one is building utilization rights over freehold land binds a third party from the time it is registered as referred to in paragraph 2. And the fourth one is provision regarding of the procedures for granting and registering building use rights over freehold land shall be further regulated by a presidential decree. The term of building use rights based on Article 25. First paragraph is building use rights as referred to in Article 22 are granted for a maximum period of 30 years and can be extended for a maximum period of 20 years. After the term of the building use rights and its extension as referred to in paragraph 1 ends, the former right holder can be granted a renewal of the building use right on the same land. So regarding of the extension and renewal itself, first one, building utilization rights over state land at the request of the right holder can be extended or renewed if it meets the following requirements. First one, the land is still being used properly in accordance with the circumstances, nature, and purpose of granting the right. Second one, the conditions for granting the right are fulfilled properly by the right holder, and rights holders still qualify as right holders. The land is still in accordance with the relevant regional spatial plan. Second paragraph, it is stated that building use rights over management rights, land shall be extended or renewed at the request of the building use rights holder after obtaining approval from the management right holder. Okay, so the second one is talking about the land consolidation. It is stated in Article 108. The first one is land consolidation as referred to in Article 106, letter B may be carried out on land owned by land rights holders and or on state land which is cultivated by the community. The land consolidation as referred to in paragraph 1 shall be carried out based on an agreement between holders of land rights, among state land tenants, or between tenants of state land and holders of land rights. And regarding of the land consolidation agreement, land consolidation can be carried out if at most at least 60% of landowners whose land area covers at least 60% of the total area of the land area to be consolidated declare the agreement. The agreement of at least 60% as referred to in paragraph 3 does not reduce the community right by 40% to gain accessibility. Based on Article 109 regarding of the land consolidation, it is stated that land consolidation as referred to in Article 106, letter B can be implemented for the construction of single house, row house, or even flat. The region or mayor shall determine the location for the land consolidation. Particularly for DKI Jakarta, the governor shall determine the location for land consolidation. The location of the land consolidation that has been determined as referred to in paragraph 2 and also paragraph 3 does not require a location permit. So this is the explanation of land consolidation. As you can see here, landlord A before have this certain amount of land, but then after it is being consolidated, the landlord A give some of its land to the government for purpose of building some kind of infrastructure and stuff. So for the payback, the landlord A have the land which is owned by landlord A have higher price since it is it is being developed and also filled by certain facilities. So the land price is higher than before.
Next is the city rejuvenation land consolidation model. So there is a changing in the settlement form from horizontal to vertical adjustment to reduce the slum areas. And there is also the flats renovation. Before the renovation, the flats consist of 4 floors with 10 units per level, which in total has 40 units. And after the renovation, the flat consists of 8 floors with 10 units per level, which in total has 80 units. This will accommodate more people. And moving on to the transfer or release of land rights by landowners. Mentioned in Peraturan Pemerintah Number 20 of 1997, Article 114. Conducted after a legal entity obtains a location permit, made in front of the official land deed maker after a mutual agreement, conducted in the presence of an authorized official, and must be registered at the district or city land office in accordance with the provisions of the invitation regulation. And the next is the utilization of state land which was formerly abandoned land, mentioned in Article 115. It is intended for the construction of public houses, special houses, and the arrangement of slum settlements, and it is implemented in accordance with the provisions of laws and regulation. Next is the utilization and transfer of land belonging to the state or region in accordance with the provisions of the regulation mentioned in Article 116. It is intended for the construction of public houses and special houses, implemented in accordance with the provisions of laws and regulation. And state land that is formerly abandoned land can be used for strategic programs, for example, for the construction of houses for low-income communities. And land acquisition for the development of public interest in accordance with the provisions of laws and regulation mentioned in Article 117. It is intended for the construction of public houses, special houses, and the arrangement of slum settlements, and implemented in accordance with the provisions of laws and regulations.
Okay, so the next one we'll be talking about Indonesia housing financing, which is divided into parts. The first one is introduction, which consists of 5 parts regarding Indonesia housing financing system introduction. Second one is Indonesia housing financing dynamic system, that consists of 4 parts regarding of Indonesia housing financing dynamic system. First one is introduction of the Indonesia housing financing system. So what is actually a housing financing system? It is a mechanism or process that involves various actors inflow funds from the owner of funds, or so-called as investors, to parties who need funding, or borrowers to meet the needs and or shelter through intermediary institutions. And what kind of finance system in Indonesia is being accommodated? The first one is formal one. It is financing that relies on formal institution, for example, bank, finance company. And the second one is informal. It is relies on informal institutions such as community-based financing, cooperatives, relatives gatherings, or so-called as arisan.
Next is the historical journey of Indonesia's housing financing system. In 1976, the first KPR realization in Indonesia took place on December 10, 1976, carried out by Bank BTN. Subsidized mortgages are carried out with a pattern of placement of funds from the government and Bank Indonesia, mixed with funds from Bank BTN. In 1990, Bank BTN has launched several housing financing products, including Upakara loans, or loans for the purpose of repairing and expanding a residential building or other purposes which will increase the value of the house. Shop ownership loans, ready-to-build plot ownership loans, house construction loans, rental housing loans, and corporate housing loans. In 1991, Bank BTN makes standardization or provisions regarding housing to achieve the goal of building simple houses. The Book of Minimum Provisions for Simple Housing Projects with KPR BTN facilities is called the BTN Blue Book. In 2002, the government, through the decree of the Minister of Settlements and Regional Infrastructure number 403 of 2002, published provision on the technical guidelines for simple healthy house construction. In 2003, to improve the previous regulation, the government issued a decree of the Minister of Settlement and Regional Infrastructure, which regulates the support for subsidized housing credit facilities for simple and healthy homes. Housing subsidies are given to families or households that own a house for the first time and are included in the target group of low-income people. In 2004, Bank BTN began to provide land purchase credit or KPL as an additional facility for subsidized housing construction loans. In 2007, as a result of the natural disasters in several regions in Indonesia, Bank BTN has distributed loans to purchase houses and rebuild houses and places of business for members of the disaster-affected community. Bank BTN also began to distribute micro-subsidized housing development or repair loans, namely loans for low-income people to build or repair houses carried out independently. In 2012, the Ministry of Public Housing is working with 21 banks that implement KPR FLPP or Housing Finance Liquidity Facilities, so the implementation of the KPR FLPP can be achieved maximally. The government has extended the credit tenor from 15 to 20 years, as well as providing a policy on the price of houses to be financed from 70 million rupiah to 88 million rupiah. In 2014, the government issued a new policy with the issuance of Regulation of the Minister of Public Housing of the Republic of Indonesia number 3 of 2014. One of the points is to increase the limit on the selling price of a house to 123 million rupiah on the Java Island and 185 million rupiah on Papua Island. In 2016, the government returned to distribute subsidies. The government also added assistance and convenience facilities for low-income people by providing a down payment assistance subsidy of 4 million rupiah for low-income people who obtain subsidized KPR facilities.
So the next one is about Indonesia Housing System Roadmap. It is consists of legal basis and strategic alignment, issues of Indonesia's housing financing implementation. So the first one is about legal basis and strategies alignment. Based on the Indonesian law Article 28, paragraph 1, it is stated that everyone has the right to live in physical and also spiritual prosperity, occupy a level and get a good and healthy living environment, and are entitled to health services. Later on, it is being interpreted and strengthened by several regulations, namely Indonesia Law Number First One 39 of 1999 and Article 40 concerning of human rights. Second one is in number 17 of year 2007 concerning the National Long-Term Development Plan of 2005 until 2025. The third one is number 11 of 2011 concerning housing and settlement areas. And the next one is number 23 of year 2014 concerning regional government. The next one is number 4 in year of 2016 concerning public housing savings. And last one is Government Regulation number 88 of 2014 concerning of development of housing and area management settlements. So the strategies alignment start off with affordable housing. It is intended to facilitate the provision of decent and affordable housing for 2.2 million households, especially in the community of low income to 5 million households by 2019. Second one is self-sufficiency. It is encouraging self-sufficiency in the community and the business world in providing adequate housing for 2.2 million households, as mentioned before. And also improving quality of uninhabitable houses for 1.5 million households, including in the context of handling slum area. The issues of Indonesia's housing financing implementation system are, first one is policies. Limited land and high prices due to the regulations law number 1 year 2011 that state that the construction of a portion of luxury, medium, and simple houses must be located in one district or city. Therefore, it is necessary to study and also regulate in order to help developers can make cross-expansion of house construction in district or city. Second one is about the realization. It is the lack of availability land in urban areas for the construction of minimal subsidized house. The grouping of low-income people did not explain the technical specification of house buildings in accordance with the specified selling price limits that has been established. The price of subsidized housing installments in a number of provinces is still also not ideal. Namely, about 40% of OMP income, example, NTT, NTB, West Java, East Java, Central Java, as well as Daerah Istimewa Yogyakarta. Next one is about the supply condition. It is higher level backlog based on perspective than a backlog based on populated perspective. And the next one is from the developer side. The problem of limited infrastructure and in the developing housing area according to the government programs, certain regulation that hampers housing development, and also limited land, and also last one is high prices. So next one is about Indonesia housing supply chain diagram. And Vinka, can you help me to give pointer to Tanah Matang? Yeah, that one. Okay, from the supply side, there are including land mature, the licensing process, building materials, and also the stage of housing construction. And the strategic issues in the supply side of mature land, which consists of the availability of affordable land and location accessibility, as well as availability of infrastructure, including land reserve through land banking, splitting of the HGB, or so-called as building rights, holding certificate, acceleration of issuance of individual certificates, and also incentives to fulfill infrastructure provision. And the second one is in the licensing process, which is fast, on time, and also at an affordable cost. It is necessary to facilitate or reduce the issuance of permits constructing buildings, or so-called as EMB here, increasing the efficiency of licensing, as well as incentive for settlement construction permits. And second one, with LHB, or so-called as balanced residential environment. While the issues on the supply side of building materials for the availability of alternative grade quality and affordable building materials can be achieved by manufacturing affordable building materials using alternative development and providing intensive purchase of building materials at a volume discount. Issues in the supply chain for the housing development stage includes adequate margins, cross-subsidized through LHB, or so-called as balanced residential environment, and tax incentive, and also settlement development can be answered by the availability of construction credit financing, determination of technical specs for the construction of a livable house, and also LHB, or so-called as balanced residential environment for settlements, and determination of HJM and boundaries. Maximum credit as well as final VAT and BPH, TBPPH, or so-called as land sales tax, land and building rights acquisition tax, incentives. Vinka, can you point out in the demand side? Yeah, thank you. While from the demand side, there are including, first one is primary financing, second one is about residential process, and also the third one is secondary financing housing. The strategic issues in the supply chain on the demand side of primary financing, which consists of availability of KPR, or so-called as house ownership credit supply, easy access to credit, affordability of installments, and sustainability of credit supply, among others LTV, or so-called as loan to value ratio, and risk weight. KPR FLPP, or house ownership credit in form of housing finance liquidity facility, and SSB, interest difference subsidy, down payment assistance, credit insurance, lease purchase schemes, human resource capacity credit issuers, housing microcredit, and community empowerment. In the process of occupancy side, such as habitable certificates, provision of rental incentives, operational and maintenance, or short for O&M, subsidies, establishment residential organization, and the accuracy of the target group, it is necessary to have proper certification of function, management of Rusunawa, facilities for the establishment and development of PPRS, or Association of Rumah Susun Owners and Occupants, monitoring and evaluation for the accuracy of target groups, as well as the implementation evaluation of the subsidy system. Related to the primary financing, in housing secondary financing, to answer the problem of the need for the availability of cheap long-term funds, the ease and frequency of access funding, and the sustainability of the supply of fund can be done by providing loans for principal credit, securitization financial assets in a sustainable manner, as well as guarantees for the securitization of financial assets. Okay, next one is Indonesia Housing Financing System Dynamic.
The housing financing conditions in Indonesia. Inequality in the provision of housing in Indonesia occurs both on the supply and demand side. The high demand is not directly proportional to the availability of houses. The contributing factors are limited land. In Indonesia, the need for housing annually reached 800,000 to 1 million units per year, while the government's capacity and development is only able to provide for 400,000 units per year due to a large amount of built land. And next contributing factor is ineffective policies. One example of the issues that led to the creation of settlement policies was the issue of uncontrolled urban settlement. A regulation was created on strategies for controlling urban settlements, namely the Ministerial Decree Number 14 of 2016 concerning the implementation of housing and settlements. And the last contributing factor is the high cost of raw material supplies. From the demand side, the limited financing factor is the main obstacle. Moving on to the issues and challenges of the Indonesian financing system, there are 4 factors related to the financing problems, namely affordability, availability, accessibility, and sustainability. The affordability regarding the financial capacity of the Indonesian people for home ownership. There are several issues related to housing availability. The first is the level of affordability of low-income people to meet housing needs is still low, whether buying from developers, building independently, or improving the quality of the uninhabitable house. And the next is the availability. The inconsistency between housing supply and demand, the gap between the availability of funds and needs, and the still limited financing patterns or SIM for low-income people. For accessibility, related to the access of the Indonesian people, low penetration rate of Indonesian banks and a greater composition of self-employed workers. And last one is the sustainability, which is related to the sustainability of funds. The source of housing finance funds is still short term, so it cannot be sustainable for the long term mortgages.
Atifa has explained regarding of the issues, and now I'm going to explain the potential of developing the Indonesian housing financing system. Financing sources that can be raised and utilized through integrated institutionalization, which are: first one is housing finance liquidity facility, housing finance assistance mechanism through the provision of low-cost funds in the term of land originating from the APBN, combined with the funds of the KPR issuing bank, blended financing method. Second one is housing savings, is the institutionalization of housing finance in which the community does contribution by paying dues before getting a KPR. Long-term funds that exist today, such as Hutch funds, insurance funds, pension funds, BPJS funds, the Taperum PNS fund, and the TWP10I or Polri fund can be used to help finance housing.
The next is the housing financing benchmarking in selected countries. The first country is Turkey. Turkey has a housing finance program called the Social Housing Projects of Turkey. The program is aimed at the poor to the middle class. This program provides different financing and utilization requirements for each income group, which are the poor communities. For the poor communities, the house area is between 45 to 65 meters square. The installments starting from 100 Turkish lira per month or 350,000 rupiah per month without the down payment. For the low income people, the house area is between 65 to 87 meters square. The down payment is 12%, and the installments per month depending on the borrower's capacity. For the middle income people, the house area is between 87 to 146 meters square. The down payment is 10 to 25%, and the installments per month depending on the borrower's capacity. The next country is the Bangladesh. By a Grameen Bank housing program. Grameen Bank was formally incorporated in 1983 and is today the largest rural credit institution in Bangladesh. The Grameen Bank housing program was started with the aim to bring housing within the reach of the rural poor. So the system is the maximum amount given for a housing loan is $249. This has to be repaid over a period of 5 years in weekly installments with an interest rate of 8%. The housing loans are available only to existing Grameen Bank borrowers who have a 100% repayment record and have completely repaid their first two loans for income generation activities. The Grameen Bank has developed two standard house designs. A smaller one costs $300 and a larger version costs $625. In many cases, the family add their own savings to the loan and are spending up to $800 to $1,000 on their home and its furnishings. And that's all from us. Do you have any question?
Thank you very much, ladies, for that wonderful and very informative presentation. I especially thank you for including the for including the description on the Grameen Bank. I know this is it's actually to be honest, it was my the Grameen Bank popped in my mind because it's the first. For me, it was the first. It was the first social financial institution that I had come across. Think during my master studies or whatnot, and I found it really really interesting. So thank you for incorporating that. Would does anybody have if anybody has any questions or comments regarding the presentation that we just saw, you're more than welcome to turn your mic on and speak your 2 cents. No? Okay. Well, if none of you have any questions or comments, I'd just like to say that housing provision throughout the world is arguably a very large issue, especially housing provision for the poor. And I think a lot of the papers and articles that are available, scholarly papers and articles that are available, revolve around case studies in Africa, Ghana especially, and China. The Chinese case studies are, in my opinion, are quite unique, as in the sense that they have this mass production approach to housing provision, especially social housing provision. Okay, I'll try to speak a bit slower because I'm sharing my network with quite a few other people in the house. So where was I? Mass production approach to social housing provision, and in a way that works for them because of the immense amount of population. But in our context in Indonesia, I know that Indonesia and Southeast Asia in general is known for the informal market. We are known for the informal drivers of whatever market it is, the property market and other markets. What do you think of the opportunities for what do you think are the opportunities in the informal sector or in the informal market for housing provision and financing? What do you girls think?
Sir, I'm sorry, but your voice is quite lagging. Can you mention once more about the question?
Okay. If my voice is still cracking and lagging, I'll write it down in the chat box instead. There. I've just posted my question in in the chat box. So, what do you think about the opportunities in the informal market or informal sector for housing provision and financing approach? Okay, I have posted my two questions in the chat box. So first one is about the informal market or in the informal um, the opportunities in the informal sector for housing provision and financing strategy or financing approach. The second question is about land consolidation. And one of the biggest challenges is the landowner's willingness to give up their land voluntarily. So, because of that hurdle, how effective do you think land consolidation is to ensure a fair distribution of land?
the informal sectors. So in Indonesia as well, there are two types of housing. First one is the formal one, which is built and is prepared by institutions that is legalized, while the second one is Perumahan Swadaya. It is an informal housing that is so-called as self-help housing, and the process of fulfilling housing needs through the use of their own resources in the form of labor as well as finance. So based on the informal sectors, I think the opportunities we can maximize through certain forms such as koperasi to provide like subsidized housing credits, because it can help the low income people to possible to afford housing through the credit itself. So I think through koperasi we can try to maximize the benefit of the providing credit SIM by koperasi intended by the low income people.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. Yeah, the Rumah Swadaya, or so-called self-help housing, is in a way sort of giving giving an opportunity for the people to provide and perhaps build their houses in their own time, so to say. So yeah, that's my that's the conclusion that I can sort of formulate from what you just mentioned. Okay, thank you. And what about land consolidation? It's difficult that perhaps some landowners will find it difficult to give up their land voluntarily, knowing that they might end up with a smaller parcel of land from when they started. Some people might benefit from receiving a larger plot of land at the end of the land consolidation effort. Woo! But for those who have to give up their land, I think that's a huge challenge in land consolidation. So, how effective do you think it would be?
I would like to try to respond towards that. So basically, land consolidation is landowners donating their some of their land parcels, but it is intended for the developing of the area itself. Like the land that is being donated usually is used for building, for example, infrastructures and also like certain facilities. So I think that by those developing system, the area gets like higher value So if ever the landlord there want to sell some of their lands, I think the price will be great because of the developing schemes that is being done by the government, like that. So that's why people are agreeing to donate some of their land because they know that there are opportunities that they will get higher price land after it is being developed by the government.
I see. The added land value is something that I hadn't thought about. So yeah, thank you for that. Does anybody else have any thoughts or opinions? Maybe they would like to share their experience, if any, with housing, with regards to housing provision. Sorry, with regards to housing provision and financial strategies. Okay. Um, well, if if there are no further comments or questions, I'd like to express my gratitude once again to the presenting group. Thank you very much for your very informative presentation. Unfortunately, I have been called to the next meeting, so I'm going to have to cut our session. I'm going to have to cut our session for the day short, but I have provided some reading materials in our classroom. It's not entirely about just about provision and financing strategies, but a couple of the articles that I posted in the classroom talks about housing provision and housing access to help reduce homelessness. So have a read through it, and we'll continue our discussion. We can continue our discussion outside of class hours. So once again, thank you all very much for attending to this morning's session. I look forward to seeing you guys again next week. Have a great day, everyone, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.